What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you for tuning in again. I really appreciate it, as always. Today, we welcome along a very special guest, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome along the upcoming country star, of which the world is yet to experience, Mr. Orlando Mendez. And some of you may know him from his appearance on The Voice recently over there in America. For anyone who's not aware of Orlando, I'll just give you a quick introduction to his work. He is what's called the Cuban Cowboy of country music, the upcoming star, a second generation American with deep Cuban roots on the cusp of something remarkable in this business. Hailing from Miami, he has a childhood dream of becoming the Cuban Cowboy and a captivating narrative of determination, family bonds, and unwavering love for storytelling through music. He experienced a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in The Voice, where he was managed by the incredible Camila Cabello, as some of you may know. And his latest single, Heart on the Line, is available now. Go check that out. And his upcoming EP, Where I Am Right Now, is due out later this year. So much to talk about, and time prevents us from going on to discuss everything. So without further ado, Orlando, hello.
Hey Oliver, how you doing? I'm very, very honored to be here on a Sunday morning talking to you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh no, the pleasure's all mine, man. Thanks so much for being in touch. So we start at the beginning. Where's it all come? Where did it all come from, man? The love of country music. Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Miami, Florida. Growing up, there wasn't a big country audience down in South Florida, and it is a mostly Cuban American community down there. So not a lot of people listening to country music, but I actually found it when I was about 13 or 14 years old. There's this guy by the name of Darius Rucker, who you
Hmm.
might know.
Oh
He
yes.
used to
Oh
be the
yes.
lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish, and I remember listening to Hootie and the Blowfish a lot as a kid. And one day made that connection and started listening to Darius Rucker's country music. Fell in love with it, the lyrics, the melody, the storytelling, and then that was kind of my gateway into country music and many more artists who have influenced me greatly.
Amazing. Do you remember like the first track you ever listened to, the first country music track?
Yeah, it was called "Comeback Song" by Darius Rucker.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Darius Rucker's, Wagon Wheel and everything, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's just superb. So, well, what made you want to pursue this as a career? Do you remember the first time you thought to yourself, "This is what I want to be doing"?
Well, a few years after getting into country music and listening and falling in love with the storytelling, I took a crack at writing like a country song. I didn't even know how to play an instrument. I didn't know how to play guitar or piano or anything. So it was pretty much a poem at that point, and wrote a poem. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I could see myself doing this more. And long story, but after the pandemic and the worldwide lockdown, I taught myself how to play the guitar, and began to really pursue writing country songs. And as things started to open back up, started gigging and playing full full blown country gigs.
Mhm. Yeah, so tell me about the first gig back. So if you've had all the lockdowns and there
Yeah,
you are on stage in an audience, no, everyone's together again. There's nothing
yeah.
to stay away from each other. What was that experience like? That must have been quite just magical, right?
It was. So actually, the first gig I ever played, it's a funny story. I was in a back alley. This
Right.
is behind a restaurant in a back alley. They wanted to do a concert, but they still wanted to keep people distanced as we were slowly opening back up. And so I was in a back alley playing through a guitar amp, vocals through an amp as well. It sounded horrible, but it was my first gig, and I just remember feeling the audience interaction and knowing that this is what I was meant to be doing. So
Fantastic.
hundreds and hundreds of gigs after that, and I'm still as fired up about it as ever.
Yeah, and you've also got good qualifications behind you. You've got a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Florida.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. I since I was a kid, I wanted to attend the University of Florida. My godfather graduated from there, and so I knew I wanted to go, and I did, and so that is another part of my history. I was an actor before I was a musician,
Oh wow.
and so I studied theater performance at the University of Florida, many plays and great, you know, experiences with TV and film, and then kind of pivoted after. But I do not regret studying theater and acting, and I hope to go back to it one day.
Oh, of course you will. You never lose it. It's in your blood, mate. It's in your blood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me about what sort of stuff did you do there at University of Florida? Did you do many performances, or was it all kind of more writing based and stuff?
No, I was on stage a whole lot. I was in several plays. I
Great.
worked also with there was a repertory theater in Gainesville named the Hippodrome Theater, which
Hmm.
I worked with them extensively,
Hmm.
and actually earned my equity credits there. So I'm part of the Actors Equity.
Yeah, because here's the equity union, huh? Here's to
Yeah.
that. So what was it about? Because you've already touched on it already, but country music just it seems like that really sort of sparked something inside you to really pursue this. Is there any way you could put into words exactly what it means to you, country music?
Yeah, I always say that country music has some very foundational elements which I love. It's about family, it's about faith, it's about friends, it's about a good time, and kind of um, it's really about enjoying the simple things in life, which we can all appreciate and we can all get back to. And that's why I feel like country music has no boundaries. I feel like country music is here for everyone, just because it stands on those principles.
Mm. Who's your? I mean, it'd be a shame to sort of pick one, but if you had to pick one of your favorites, or we can name more than one. So actually, no, let's not single one out. Just like talk about some of your inspirations. Who's like some of your favorite artists, other than
Yeah,
Darius
so
Rucker, of course.
yeah, Chris Stapleton,
Of
a
course.
huge Chris Stapleton fan. Tim McGraw, young Tim McGraw was some of my favorite music, and even as he grows, as he grows older, his music is still as rich as ever. Luke Combs,
Mm,
he obviously sang the Luke Combs song on the show, but I'm a huge Luke Combs fan,
yeah.
and the list goes on and on. There's so many. Um,
Yeah. You and me both, mate. I think that's a good lead on. Tell me about The Voice. Of course, your audition song was Beer Never Broke My Heart by Luke Combs, one of my personal favorites. Yeah. How was that experience? The build up. What made you want to apply for The Voice in the first place? What made you want to go for it?
well, I wasn't going to actually.
Wow.
Obviously being I was as an actor before, I was still signed up to all of these um, audition newsletters, and The Voice came across my email several times, and I was like, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it. Always had a sort of yearning to do something like that, but never really pulled the trigger. And then I had a friend who saw the audition notice and said, I don't care if you sign up, but if you don't, I'm signing you up. So you're doing it. You're doing it either way. So you either do it willingly or against your will, but you're doing it. And so
Okay.
I listened to him and signed up for it. And several virtual rounds later, flew out to LA for the blind audition.
Yeah. So tell me about that moment backstage. You're waiting for your turn to go on. What was going through your mind?
I mean, your mind is racing, right? Just nerves, nerves, all of the possibilities. You play everything out in your head, a million times. But I was really trying to breathe, calm the nerves. I knew this was a once in a lifetime opportunity that very well may never happen again. And so I was just telling myself, we're not going to let nerves ruin this, right? So just breathe, do what you do, and have some fun with this. This is special.
Amazing. And of course, you got to work with the incredible Camila Cabello, if I'm saying that right. And
Yeah.
yeah, what's it like having her as a mentor throughout that process?
Oh, she was great. I mean, she really, really was extremely down to earth, found a way to communicate with us that was so effective. Also a very talented and intuitive singer. So she found ways to just make us better. I like to say before the show, there were elements of my singing voice that I was not using, that
Mm,
I was not capitalizing on. And after the show, I feel like I'm a much better singer
mm.
because of her instruction.
Yeah, and it felt like it was written in the stars for her to be your mentor because you both have connections to Miami, of course. I think you
Mm-hmm.
said in the audition that I think was it some of your family went to the same high school as her
Yeah,
as well.
my two
Yeah.
little brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about written in the stars, right?
Uh-huh.
But so yeah, so that process of working with Camilla and being on the show, what do you think? I think you've already touched on it there, but you say you really gained something, so your voice improved, and you're really much more aware of your voice and what you can do with it now, right?
Yeah, there's especially one element. So going into the show, I hardly ever used my falsetto voice. Falsetto voice was kind of your head voice.
Hmm.
It just wasn't something I was comfortable with. Just wasn't something I thought I was very good at singing in my falsetto voice.
Mm.
And I did it for one of the rounds. I, just threw out a falsetto note, and she was like, "That right there, you need to do that more because it's a cool, it's a cool flip when you go from this gravelly chest voice to this nice sweet falsetto. It's dynamic. You need to use that more." And I feel like after the show, I definitely have used that. You can even hear it on some of my tracks, which
Mm.
are out.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think, did you go over like, because I've had a few singing lessons, and you go over like the break in your voice where the chest
Yeah.
voice stops and the head voice starts. It's like ironing that out, because otherwise you get a very unique sound that comes out of that area, sort of right at the top, and then you've got to flip it over. So I think that's really,
You
really
flip it
good.
over.
Flip it over, spectacular.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's talk about your stuff. So tell me about your upcoming EP. What can fans expect? Which of course is called Where I Am Right Now. What can fans expect?
They can expect a little piece of me. This EP is sort of my introduction into the country music world,
Mhm.
introduction into my artistry. And so it'll have a piece, a song which kind of goes into my history and talks about my connection with Cuba. It'll have some heartbreak songs, which I've written. It'll have some songs that are pretty vulnerable. And then a few fun songs that kind of show a brighter side of me and my influence with rock and roll and some other elements which I have as an artist.
Yeah. Let's talk about so the latest single is called, excuse me, called Heart on the Line, which I've had a listen to. And some of your team have very gladly sent over a copy for me to listen to. It's a beautiful track. It's a really, really beautiful track
Thank you.
about how it's someone. If the vibe, the immediate vibe I got from it was someone, the singer and the narrator, like it was they've been through a lot. This is someone with a weight of experience behind it, both in love and disappointment, and how just no matter what's going to happen, is that singer, the person like yourself, is always going to be there to
Right.
to sort of go through those tough times and be like an unbreakable spirit. Was that part of the writing process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great take on it. It was I wrote the song by myself. Shortly after The Voice, I was kind of in a vulnerable spot.
Mm.
Kind of my life was at a sort of very fork in the road moment about what to do next, and
Mm.
um, wrote this song as I was trying to figure out, what was the next step, and pretty nervous about what the future had for me. So I think we've all experienced a moment like that where our heart is kind of on the line of, this next decision, these next few moments might decide whether or not my heart is full of joy or completely broken and kind of at rock bottom. So
Mm.
that's what fueled the song.
Mm. I'm sure it will be the first one after it's released. You're just going to keep, there's going to get a lot of attention, man. I feel like this is a really good thing that you've got here at the moment, and yeah, this is
Thank
brilliant.
you.
So you talk about your Cuban roots as well. Something that your team's been told me about was, and looking at your website and everything, which guys is down below in the description. Go check it out. Um, there's a really strong connection to your roots, your Cuban roots, and everything. So, how has that influenced your work?
It is it's influenced me greatly. Uh, my grandparents they were ranchers and farmers back in Cuba before the Fidel Castro regime
Mm.
came into power and confiscated their land and their livelihood, and so they were forced to leave with nothing but the clothes on their back, and made their way to Spain and then Puerto Rico and finally Miami, where my parents were born. I was born, and that story of sacrifice and just this selfless love that they would have for their children and for their future children influences me greatly, and now as I'm trying to achieve this dream, it fuels me. So you hear it in my music. I mean, I feel everything deeply. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and my songs hopefully reflect that. And there's a song coming named Motherland, which really delves into my history and my background and that whole story.
Mm. So, what do you think, like Cuban roots has? Because there's so many people have. Because And I was going to say that on the Voice, one of the guys on the panel was, of course, the great Blake Shelton. Who's a
Yeah.
titan of country music. He's just an amazing man as well as artist. But he's from, oh, it's escaped me now. But he's from the southern states and
Yeah, he's from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Thank you. So it's interesting how like there's a lot of Southern America that has influenced a lot of things. Chris Stapleton, etc. But you're coming from a fresh angle. You're taking Cuban roots into this business. So from your perspective, like, what do you think what kind of influence does Cuba have compared to not stereotypical, but your typical kind of country music like Nashville, Tennessee, that kind of thing? Well, what does it have that the sort of typical country stuff doesn't have?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of similarities. Cuban culture is very family oriented, very you know they we want to have a good time. It's very faith oriented. A lot of the elements that you see in country music, but then I believe that being of Hispanic heritage is just something about it's just so rich culturally. It's bright in colors. It's very rhythmic. The music is extremely rhythmic, and it's all about feeling deeply. If you are joyful, then it is. We want to celebrate like no other culture, and then obviously we feel things very deeply as well, and so I think um, that rich culture is something I'm trying to bring into that world of country music.
Yeah. Is there a love letter to Cuba in your EP? Is there one song which is really a love letter to that?
Yeah, there's that song Motherland, which is more of a yeah, it's a love letter to my heritage and to my grandparents and the generations before me.
Hmm. Yeah, so you mentioned also because you this song that this EP came out at a time you were sort of figuring things out after The Voice and everything, but to have a mentor again like Camilla, who she's been there, she's done it, she's doing all these great things. But did she ever give you like a couple of pieces of advice, or like after you sort of parted ways? Did she sort of give you something to sort of to keep pushing forward in a way? What was their like main advice for you?
Absolutely. I mean, she just said to embrace who you are as an artist.
Mm,
Embrace your star power, embrace what makes you unique and makes you different. It's going to be, especially now trying to break into this country scene, it does seem that, at times there is a little bit of friction, as people are trying to figure out where is a Cuban country singer, where's space for him in this business. I think people are very open and receptive, but there's always a little bit of friction. So
mm,
she encouraged me to just keep going, know who you are as an artist, and be truthful to
mm.
that.
Yeah, and of course, you again going back to The Voice, all four chairs turn round for you. Not only Camilla, Blake, John Legend, and of course Gwen Stefani as well. All these guys turning around. I mean, what was that feeling like when you had the choice of all four of these amazing people?
Well, Oliver, I never thought that would happen. I really didn't. I never, in my wildest fantasies, thought that
Yeah.
four chairs would turn. I was praying for one. I was just like, please, Lord, give me one chair so I can be on the show. And so to have that decision in front of me was something I never expected. It was overwhelming, but it was also the most surreal and special moment of my life. And so tough. It was a tough choice. It was one that was made on the spot. I really did not know what I was going to do beforehand, and I felt in my heart Camila had fought the hardest throughout the negotiations. She fought the hardest and really, really wanted me on her team. So
Yeah, she was definitely she wanted you, man. She could really tell like
yeah,
she fought for you. Was it not only just that, but the like the Miami connections and everything? You say in moments like that when you've got to make a split decision, I think it's important to go with like your gut feel and sort of go with the person that you think is going to help you push forward. Was that what you got with Camilla?
yes, absolutely. I feel like they're coming from the same place and from the same area. There was a level of understanding and communication.
Yeah.
It felt like I was talking to a friend from home.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. And I think in terms of like I'm always interested in how artists actually write music. There's so many different ways that people do write. Some people, like Elton John is always lyrics first, whereas some people like Paul Simon is always music first. Having
Right.
time to work on your own music, which way works better? Is it music first? Is it lyrics first? Or is it kind of a improvisation? So both sort of happen at the same time. How do you like to work?
It's sort of both. It's sort of both. In the beginning, it started as lyrics first. Always, I was always a lyric, write poems and then try to fit chords and melodies to that. But now I've kind of flipped a little bit. I'll start noodling on my guitar and finding different cool chord combinations, something that sounds real interesting or real pretty or whatever I'm feeling at the moment,
Hmm.
and then kind of shape a story around that. I always have an ongoing note section though of like song titles, or ideas that I'm intrigued by, and that always comes into play when I'm writing.
Hmm. And sort of going back to what you're saying there, like after The Voice, you've had, as you say, like a fork in the road, and and you've found a way to where you are now. For anyone who's listening who is probably still in that fork in the road, or is country singer or artist, wherever it is, what would you say to them in that who are going through this right now? Then, of course, you're where you are now. You've gone through it. But what
Yeah,
advice would you say to those people?
I always my biggest advice to everyone trying to pursue a big dream is just to take some chances.
Hmm.
Really put yourself out there. I know it's easier said than done. There's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
scary moments. There's going to be scary moments. There's going to be uncertainty. There's still uncertainty for me every single day. Trying to figure this out, but you're never going to achieve a big dream if you don't take some big chances. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, take that big chance and trust that it's going to fall together. What's meant for you is meant for you.
Absolutely, man. Amen to that. But
Yeah,
cool. We've just got a few more minutes left, Orlando, before you got to shoot off. But thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
yeah.
So
Thank you, Oliver.
yeah, just a couple more questions for you, mate. Who's your dream? Who's your dream duet? Who would you want to duet with in the future?
Casey Musgraves is one of my
Oh,
big love
brilliant!
her. Might might have a little crush on her. Don't tell. Don't
Oh, it's too
don't
late
tell
now.
her. But no, she's a big one for me. Obviously, Stapleton, Luke Combs. There's a lot of duets I pray that are down the line for me.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first, Casey. You heard it here first. Uh, yeah, Luke Combs, I think, is amazing. I listen to him pretty much every day. He's an amazing man. Um, yeah, so apart from this EP and everything, you get this released later in the year. Is it okay to ask, do you have a date? Do you have a release date when it's going to be out?
It'll be in January,
Oh,
at
Jen,
some point in January. We're still working on the. There will be a few more single releases there before I have another single entitled "Bad Decisions." It's coming out October 27th,
great.
um, and then there will be at least one more single release before the end of the year, and then an EP early next year.
Brilliant. Where can fans access that? Are we on Spotify or on YouTube?
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon Music, everywhere you can enjoy.
Brilliant. Well, keep an eye out for that, guys. I'm sure. I can't wait to hear what more you do, man. It's going to be amazing stuff. You've got a great song out already, and I can't wait to hear the whole thing. So fantastic, fantastic stuff so far.
Thank you.
And one final question for you, sir. It's probably already talked about this already, but it's the last last question I have for every guest, which is, what would you say was an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to this point that you're never ever going to forget?
Ooh, experience up to this point. Um, I mean, it would be an easy answer to say The Voice, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I was thinking it might be a bit of a too easy a question.
yeah, that one's easy. It's that was obviously The Voice is one of the biggest. So there's a specific round on The Voice. I'll give you this. The third and last round I was in was the knockout round. Is very special for me. My uncle had passed away 2 weeks before the filming of that
I'm
um,
sorry.
last round. He passed away with after a battle with cancer, and it just all kind of fell together. I was able to sing a song which is near and dear to my heart called "Live Like You Were Dying" by Tim McGraw,
Yes.
and a song that I had sang several times in the past, but had a new meaning for me now. And to take that to national air and national TV and sing that and do it as an honor to my uncle and to remember him and the influence he had on my life, that was special. That's something I'll never forget. I didn't care how that round ended. I didn't care if I stayed on the show or left the show. I just wanted to make my uncle proud and put that on TV because he was a special person in my life.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm sure he was watching over and he was very proud of you, mate. Very, really proud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Fantastic. Orlando, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see what more you do, and congratulations on what you've achieved so far with The Voice and with the EPs. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out on Spotify, Apple Music for what work you do in the future. It's going to be amazing, man. And I can't wait to see you up there with the greats, with Stapletons and the Luke Combs and everything. I look forward to it. So
Thank you, Oliver. I appreciate you. Are you in the UK?
I am, yes. I'm just
Okay,
outside London, yeah. So early evening over here, so which is nice. So now I can settle down for the
fantastic. Well, I want to. I have in my plans to go and tour the UK. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be next year. If not, very very soon. I'm applying for a few things to go tour the UK and more of Europe. So hopefully, maybe get to
Right.
connect with you one day.
Absolutely, man. Any tours of America coming up soon?
Yeah, there's a bunch being planned for next year, early next year. Some Florida tours, Southeast, and then planning some Canada tour as well. So
Oh,
that will
amazing.
be a lot of fun. And then gonna have to make my way over to the UK
Yeah,
at some point.
you have your mandatory visit.
Absolutely,
Brilliant stuff,
absolutely.
man. Cool. So, tell you what, if you just hang on while I'll finish the recording. I'll say goodbye to you one to one. Sadly, I've only got half an hour, so I've had to make the most of you. So, thank you for that, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I'll be back very soon. And for the final time, Orlando, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oliver. Appreciate it.